there was a long period of time, I guess you could say up until at least 2020, where the legal industry in California has been the Wild West.
He seemed like a really nice guy who wanted to help the little guy.
Personal injury attorneys, just because they represent people like you, doesn't mean that they are like you.
Welcome to Predator in Plain Sight, exposing Tom Girardi. I'm Chris Hansen. This is the first of a three-part documentary that will offer you a rare look into the whole evil saga of attorney Tom Girardi. I'm being joined by Kimberly Archie, noted legal consultant and victims advocate. You may have seen Kimberly in the two Hulu documentaries on the case, The Housewife and The Hustler 1 and 2. Kimberly's direct involvement with Tom Girardi's cases began when she worked alongside him before allegations against him surfaced. With her unique perspective and expertise, Kimberly has been instrumental in guiding victims through the intricate legal process required to seek their rightful compensation and justice, particularly those affected by Girardi's misdeeds. It's important to note that Kimberly will be testifying in Tom Girardi's criminal trial, which begins on August 6th in Los Angeles. Kimberly and I will be offering daily trial updates once it begins, so be sure to take a moment now and hit the subscribe button so you don't miss out. Kimberly, it's such a privilege to have you alongside to share your unique insights. Can you start by telling us how you first came into Tom Girardi's world? What led you to cross paths with him?
So how I met Tom Girardi goes back to when I was taking a night class to sort of up my game as a cheerleading expert. And when I say cheerleading expert, I'm an expert witness for litigation when children are exploited or harmed in cheerleading. And I also sort of, mosey over to other sports as well. And so in taking that class, they showed the Aaron Brockovich movie, and everyone started calling me the cheerleader who made sports safer, or the Aaron Brockovich of cheerleading safety. And so one night I shot off an email to the Aaron Brockovich lawyers to see if they would help me take on the cheerleading industry. And they got right back to me. And that's how I connected with Tom back in 2008.
And what were your initial impressions of Tom?
Well, in the beginning, I mostly went through go-between people, meaning he was kind of like the Wizard of Oz. You didn't just get to meet Tom. I would be on email chains and things like that, or they would say, we're going to go give this to Tom. I didn't actually meet Tom Girardi in person for the first time until my friend Kathy Gomez and her family interviewed him for their case, which we'll talk about later because they're one of the victims of Tom Girardi.
And any sense of what would ultimately unravel here?
No sense at all in the beginning. I mean, in the beginning, all I knew about was what an incredible attorney he was, how well respected he was in the legal community, particularly here in California and in Los Angeles. He did everything that you would expect an attorney to do, jump through all the hoops and make the client feel comfortable and show them all of his accolades and awards and all of that. And again, the Gomez's case, their defendant was going to be Pacific Gas and Electric, which is the same defendant that you see in the Aaron Brockovich movie. So it makes a lot of sense why he seems such a great fit for the Gomez family.
Over the course of these 3 episodes, you'll hear from journalists who have covered Tom Girardi and his wife Erica Jane, as well as from the victims Girardi is accused of defrauding. These individuals alleged he used their settlement money to promote Erica's career and fund their extravagant lifestyle. As we peel back the layers of Girardi's career, both the commendable and the condemnable, join us as we explore the complexities of a man who was once a titan of the legal world, now a pariah in the very system he once dominated.
The great part about my job is you get to help people that need your help. And I think when I think back of my legal history of the nice results I've had, every one of them was a wonderful person who was badly hurt and is very nice and sweet. That's what wins the case. It ain't the lawyer, baby. Although we take the bow. There's no question we take the bow.
For more than 40 years, Tom Girardi and his firm Girardi Keese handled high-profile cases, often involving significant legal battles against large corporations in matters of pharmaceutical cases, environmental law, and consumer rights, often resulting in record-setting settlements in the tens, even the hundreds of millions of dollars. These cases were against some of the biggest names: Boeing, the NFL, Merck, Lockheed Corporation, now Lockheed Martin, Pacific Gas and Electric, Los Angeles County Metropolitan Transportation Authority, and Hollywood's 7 major movie studios. In 1996, a notable case against Pacific Gas and Electric led to a $333 million settlement paid to 650 residents of Hinckley, California. These residents linked their cancer and other diseases to contaminated water runoff from a compressor station as part of a natural gas pipeline.
Ed Masry, I had bumped into him a couple times, and he came to me and said, "You know, Tom, I think this could be really a good case, and I think maybe you would have the ability to handle this thing because it's going to cost a lot of money to get it ready and so forth." So I said, "Okay, great." It was one of the first cases that warned people about environmental problems.
This case inspired the film Aaron Brockovich in 2000, where Girardi was thanked in the credits and served as an advisor to the filmmaker. In 2007, Girardi was part of a team that negotiated a staggering $4.85 billion settlement with Merck regarding complications from its pain medication Vioxx. It's believed to be the largest drug settlement ever. Girardi's acclaim included induction into the Trial Lawyer Hall of Fame by the California State Bar. He was a board member and former president of the International Academy of Trial Lawyers, and became the first trial lawyer appointed to the California Judicial Council, the policy-making body of the state courts. His influence extended into Democratic Party politics from the president on down, donating millions to campaigns, organizing fundraising events, and advising governors on judicial appointments.
Tom started off as a big deal.
Brandon Lowry is an investigative reporter for Law 360, a key resource for legal news and analysis. He's been covering the Tom Girardi case extensively.
He came out of Loyola, and I think it was within about 5 years, he had broken a record for a medical malpractice verdict. And this put him on the map. This gave him a chance to use that victory and parlay it into more victories, more cases. From there, it snowballed. He ended up getting on the map nationally with the Aaron Brockovich case.
The 1996 Aaron Brockovich case involved a legal battle against Pacific Gas and Electric Company, PG&E, over groundwater contamination in Hinckley, California. Aaron, a legal assistant, helped build a case that led to a $333 million settlement for the residents affected by the contamination, the largest settlement of its kind at the time.
What this did was it differentiated him from all the other plaintiffs' attorneys out there. It really showed that he wasn't just an attorney who handled $1 million cases or $10 million cases or even $100 million cases. He was an attorney who got $333 million plus from PG&E. He's a notoriously litigant. They hired private detectives. They do all these dirty tricks. And Tom Girardi not only beat them, but got $333 million out of them. And obviously that is the kind of stuff that makes for a good movie.
As Brandon sees it, the movie cemented Tom's reputation as a champion for the little guy.
Tom always advertised himself as a fighter for the underdog. And the Aaron Brockovich movie was like the best infomercial he ever could have asked for. It was an Oscar-winning infomercial for Tom Girardi, or at least that's how he used it. The thing is that these alleged fraudulent activities were always there in the background. He had been accused since at least the 80s, probably earlier, of doing things that were not in his client's best interests. And the Aaron Brockovich case, ironically, it was not an exception to that. So this movie that painted him as one of the good guys, one of the heroes who helped get it done, really omitted a lot of the bad stuff that would only really enter the public consciousness 20 years later.
Kimberly, how close is the movie to the real story of Aaron Brockovich?
Well, people who were involved in the Aaron Brockovich case during the time it was occurring, meaning some of the attorneys, would often have a little saying about the movie that the only thing true about the movie is that Aaron Brockovich got $2 million. So I think that's a good way to sum it up. A lot of people think that movies are real life, and Aaron Brockovich movie is a great example of Hollywood at its best and reality at its worst.
Kimberly, how does George Hatcher play into all this?
Well, George Hatcher is an interesting character. He's not an attorney, he's not an expert. I'm not really sure what George's title is, but most people know him as Ed Masry's best friend, who's the attorney in the Aaron Brockovich movie that Aaron worked for.
He is a very interesting character. He is someone who has been in the game in Los Angeles since at least like the 1960s, 1970s. And he was the center of a firestorm in Los Angeles. It was a scandal. He had been running an organization, Friends of the Friendless, that was masquerading as a Catholic charity to give comfort to people who were injured in hospitals and didn't have anybody. And unfortunately, the people from Friends of the Friendless, when they visited a patient, that patient was still friendless. It was not, they weren't friends to the friendless, they were exploiters of the friendless. They went in and there was one person, their account was that they were in the hospital and they had a broken arm and broken fingers and their arm was in a cast. And this person went in, put a pen in their broken hand, and then scribbled something on a retainer form to solidify this contract on behalf of one of these personal injury attorneys that they were working for. So George Hatcher, he was what they call a case runner or a capper. And what these people do is they go out and they try to bring cases to attorneys. Now that might not sound bad, and in some cases it might not be, but it is illegal. Basically, attorneys, they can advertise generally, but they can't approach or have anybody approach anybody individually to say, hey, come to me. They can advertise and hope that clients come to them. That's how it works. So that's what George did, is that he ran this organization and it was illegal, and he had all these people pretending to be helpers, going in and signing them up for lawyers pretty ruthlessly. And eventually, George found himself at the center of a massive scandal.
Brandon says that in the 70s, the Los Angeles County Board of Supervisors conducted a significant investigation, which led to George and some of his associates to be put behind bars. After his release, George went on to partner with his defense attorney, Ed Masry. Masry, known for his pivotal role in the Aaron Brockovich saga, emerged as one of the real heroes of that story alongside Aaron herself.
He's that kind of curmudgeonly old guy who's got a heart of gold, but he was George's defense lawyer. He kept George around, and George was actually involved in the Aaron Brockovich case. Takes credit for connecting Ed Masry and Tom Girardi, in fact. It just goes to show that there was a long period of time, probably, I guess you could say up until at least 2020, where the legal industry in California has been the Wild West, right? They didn't really do their job, didn't really police people. And if you follow George Hatcher's career, you can see that. You follow Ed Masry, follow Tom Girardi. A lot of people got away with a lot of stuff.
In 1998 at Chasen's, one of Beverly Hills' swankier restaurants, Tom Girardi met a cocktail waitress, Erica Chahoy, who would later be known as Erica Jane. The two started dating, and in January 2000, Erica married Tom, who was 33 years older than her and already twice divorced. She blended her new glamorous life with his high-profile legal career. Were people shocked in the beginning, Kimberly, that these two got together?
I don't know if people were shocked, but in the legal world, it was definitely looked down upon. And particularly like the wives of the partners at the firm were a little disgusted by Tom's new wife.
She was younger, she was flashy, beautiful.
Well, she looked a lot different in the beginning. So there's been an evolution of Erica Jane. So she was a little more your typical lawyer's wife in the beginning. She dressed a little more conservative and sort of played the role. But as things progressed along, she built up her confidence and sort of created that I don't give a persona that you see today.
Did his partners at the law firm question his judgment?
They absolutely questioned his judgment, yes.
I mean, what's he doing hooking up with somebody 33 years younger?
Well, this is his third wife, too. So you've got the original wife with the kids, and then you have wife number 2, who was kind of like a trial chaser. She met him because she'd go sit in on trials she knew nothing about. And they were still in the middle of this contentious divorce when he met Erica. And of course, Tom was a part owner in Chasen's. So it was pretty ballsy of her to give her number to Tom when he was not just a customer, but he was a part owner of the restaurant.
Was Erica pursuing Tom, or was Tom pursuing Erica?
I think Erica had her eyes on a prize. She knew he was part owner. You got to think this is right around the time of the bigger fame of Aaron Brockovich. And so, Tom was sort of in all his glory at the time that Erica met him. And there's a great story in Erica's book where she says she literally goes and collects the very little she owned into garbage bags, threw them in the back of her old little convertible, and drove on down the road to move into Tom's mansion. Who was the predator, Tom or Erica? I don't know. I think they were two peas in a pod, really.
She is someone who enjoyed living with money. It's not something that she came from. She didn't come from money. And Erica was a sign of Tom's success. He used her to show everybody else how successful he is.
Investigative reporter Brandon Lowry.
He had a much younger, glamorous wife who made these music videos that were just raunchy, right? And he shows these raunchy music videos to his friends in the legal industry, to judges, to these buttoned up types. And they're all wondering, what the hell is this? But this is his way of showing that his worth, his value. So that's one aspect of it, is that she was literally being used as a trophy wife. I think that she embraced that role, for one. Another thing is that she put Tom back on the map. Because remember, the Aaron Brockovich movie, that was back in 2000. So a decade and a half later, it's getting a little stale, right? Aaron Brockovich, she's out there, but she's not like who she was in 2000. And Tom needed a new face, someone to sell him.
It's just money and you can't take it with you.
85% of the women around here have had breast implants. I was poor, I was rich, I was poor again. And you know what? Having money is easier.
I have always wanted things. I crave money.
I deserve only the best. I'm worth it.
Here's to not being fake.
In 2006, the NBC-owned Bravo network launched the first of its Real Housewives franchise, starting with Real Housewives of Orange County. The show followed the personal and professional lives of affluent women, filled with catty drama and backbiting that kept viewers hooked. It was an instant hit. By October 2010, Bravo debuted its 6th installment of Real Housewives. This time, the show was set against the glamorous backdrop of Beverly Hills, California. Just before the show's 6th season, Tom called on his friend, composer David Foster, whose wife Yolanda was on the show, to ask if he'd arrange for an introduction to the producers.
I think having David Foster make the introduction to the Housewives, to me, that was more of Girardi doing the thing he does, where he wants to let people know, these are the people I know, and these are the things that they can do for me.
This is social media journalist Kiki Monique.
It was very clear Erica had this passion to be a pop star, and he wanted to be able to provide that for her, to say, look at what I've done for you. We've heard the stories of letting her gyrate at these like legal conventions and these parties in front of a bunch of lawyers. So he was very proud of this. So I think just the fact that he knew who David Foster was and could make that connection just fed his ego and made him feel good.
If Tom didn't want Erica on the show, I think she wouldn't have been on the show.
David Yontef is the host of the Behind the Velvet Rope podcast. David's known for his expertise on the Real Housewives series.
I think he thought it certainly wouldn't hurt his career, right? Like now he would be known and it's like free advertising for his firm and for future clients. And I think that he was all for it. Yes, he did pretend like it was all for Erica, and there were even all the scenes he was in where he acted like, I don't really know what's going on here, but I think he knew just what was going on. She was Mrs. Girardi, so Tom would have said, no wife of mine is going on a reality show, period, end of story. I think she would have said, okay, yes, sir, that's my belief. So I think Tom wanted her there, yeah, for all these other reasons.
So, Kimberly, it sounds like Erica wanted on the show and Tom called in some favors from his powerful friends.
I think that sums it up perfectly, actually. Yeah. I think the whole Bravo universe, Erica is a good fit for the world that Bravo's created among these ladies. And of course, with the amount of wealth that they had ascertained from stealing from clients, she had a lot of money to show the viewers. And, it was perfect.
And this was just the beginning of her plan, or for her thirst maybe, of fame.
Well, Erica had some like little bit parts in shows going back to when she first came to Los Angeles from the East Coast, but this was definitely her first real shot at fame.
Erica was about to hit the big time, at least in her mind.
He seemed like a really nice guy who wanted to help the little guy, and obviously that tugs at your heartstrings. And you come across a lot of lawyers through your life, and it doesn't seem like many of them have a heart, and it seemed like he was actually a lawyer with a heart.
And Erica's, see, this is why I love him. Do you see it now? Just think about the value. We talked about the Aaron Brockovich movie being an Oscar-winning infomercial, right? This reached a hell of a lot more people, and it didn't go stale. Like every year, every week during the season, there was a new episode. There was a new opportunity for him to be featured, for Erica to be featured, for people to be talking. And if you're one of these millions of Bravo viewers who just thinks that this guy is super successful and smart and wholesome, just based on the experience that you've had watching him on Bravo, who are you going to call when you get into a real serious car accident or you lose an arm? You're going to think, I don't know any personal attorneys, but there's that Tom Girardi, there's Erica's husband. And I'm sure people called because of that.
Leveraging their wealth to stand out on Real Housewives, Erica famously became the first cast member to have her own $40,000 a month glam squad, raising the bar for luxury and extravagance on the show.
It's true. Like if you think back, really, when Erica joined, in season 6, The Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, yeah, we really didn't have, like, if you remember the early days of all the franchises, people would come down to breakfast and they would have no makeup on. She really did. She was kind of the first housewife that we were like, what is this glam thing? Which it existed in the real world, but she just brought it onto camera. I always remember like one of those early scenes. I mean, it was partly she was doing glam and she was going through the closet with Mikey Minden, and yeah, now it's a thing. I mean, Erica really is the one that kind of brought glam onto the Housewives. Now every franchise, 98%, even when they go on vacation, I mean, it's part of the storyline. Like, oh, you didn't bring your glam. Where's your glam? They show them getting ready with their glam. And I mean, and they have to pay for that out of their own pockets to like fly people. So she really was the one who came on, not only with style, but really with a whole glam team, which in the beginning, I mean, now we look back and we're like, of course you have glam. But season 6, I mean, now they're going into season 14. So it's 8 years ago. She really was the one that kind of changed that game of like, this is a real thing. And it kind of, everyone has glam now.
Erica and Tom were also the first on the show to use their private jets, a decision that would later come back to haunt them.
Yeah, I mean, she too, you know, in like the other franchises, you don't really see private jets with 1 or 2 exceptions. But even now, like on Beverly Hills, like you do see certain people in private jets like Diana Jenkins, but I think Erica was kind of the first for that too. Like pretty early on, I mean, I don't know if it was her first season, but pretty early on in her Housewives career as well. I mean, it was a storyline of like, hey, we're going here and we're all going to take you on the private jet. And I mean, who doesn't like that? And now you see that more often too.
David says you have to hand it to Bravo. As of June 2024, there are 11 Real Housewives series in the United States and 21 international adaptations.
To me, Bravo is like a master class in marketing. It is just because if you look at the numbers, if you actually look at the numbers of what these housewife shows do, now they're past their heyday as far as the numbers. They used to get like 1 to 2 to 3 million. Now the numbers have slipped, but the fan base for Housewives is so fanatic. There's a thing called, which you probably don't know, there's a thing called BravoCon. So it happens every year. It's not happening this year, but it is. It started in New York, now it's in Vegas. There are hundreds of thousands of people. There's VIP tickets, which start at, I think, $2,500, $1,500. That's a ton of money to like the average person. A regular weekend pass, I think, is like $500 to $700. You go there, then each housewife has their own booth. People are buying merch, but it's unbelievable how this is just such a niche. The fan base is so rabid. I have a podcast on this, and when I started on a smaller scale, now on every day, certain people say to me, my friends are like, how could you have a podcast every day? I don't know. People would literally listen to me talk about this 24 hours a day if I didn't sleep. More is more with this Bravo community. It's crazy. I've never seen anything like it in media and entertainment. The Beatles, Taylor Swift, and Bravo.
Anytime a housewife makes the show, Kimberly, the husband, reluctantly or not, makes the show as well.
Yeah, it was really wild for Tom to be on the show because at one time, somebody wanted Joe Rogomez, who is one of Tom's victims and clients, to do a reality show. And Tom was like adamant against it. So it surprised me that he wanted Erica to be on the show and that he was so excited about it, and that he was actually on the show. And one of the things that's interesting to me is we all know reality shows are scripted a little bit, or I guess people have varying opinions on that, how scripted it is or isn't. I really felt like Tom was reflected in the show, really how Tom was. You see scenes where he's really rude to the other ladies. He's very controlling. He wants to have the center of attention, which is kind of funny. You're on a show where everyone else is supposed to be the subject of the show, and then Tom gets in a scene and he wants to be the center of attention. And I think that came across to the viewers.
Did Tom come across as a narcissist?
I don't think that he did as loudly as it does looking back now. Because at the time, you don't have the benefit of knowing what he was really up to. I think now, knowing what we know now about what he's done to his victims over the last 40 years, and you rewatch the episodes, he does look like a crazy narcissist. I mean, he just does.
Kimberly, when did we start to see the walls cave in on Tom and Erica?
The walls started to cave in on Tom and Erica really in the early 2019, when there was a big lawsuit filed by one of the legal lenders saying that Tom had not paid the loan back and he had defaulted on follow-up arrangements, even from an original default. And then I began to hear all of this chatter in the legal community, and friends would call me up and say, like, hey, if Tom owes you any money, you better get it now. And that was really the beginning of the end.
I feel the victims amongst the Bravo fans, they get lost. Like, everyone says they're pro-victim, of course, and they're so outraged. And you look at Jen Shaw, and they're so outraged by her victims. But the bottom line is, it's going back to how you feel about the housewife. I feel everyone was so outraged and everyone was so pro-victim when the world came for Erica. Now, I'm not saying that the shift has happened, because certainly I still think plenty of people dislike Erica because of all this, but it's like the power of the producer and it's the power of the edit. Erica had a really bad season 2 seasons ago when all this was happening. Then she had a pretty bad season, and now it's not that this is faded, but the producers say to themselves, here are the people we're going to fire, and we're not going to fire Erica. They're not firing her.
In episode 2 of our series, we'll introduce you to some of Tom Girardi's victims. These individuals will share their nightmarish experiences with the disgraced attorney. Their stories provide an unfiltered look at how deeply Girardi's actions affected their lives. Amidst their challenges, Kimberly stepped up, advocating for them and guiding them through the legal maze and offering hope. Join us as we delve into their stories, highlighting the real human cost of betrayal and deception. Until then, along with Kimberly Archie, I'm Chris Hansen. I'll be watching and listening.